Hello everyone, and welcome to the Web3 Devs Underground. My name is Amit Shilo, and I am managing our wonderful community alongside our amazing team of volunteers and supporters. We're honored to welcome you all today. Before we dive in with our amazing guest today, I would like to briefly introduce you to our community. We are the Web3 Devs Underground, and we are a community of developers and builders founded on open source values by Shauli Rejwan and Roy Osherov. Since our inception almost 4 years ago, we have consistently hosted in-person and online events, bringing together some of the brightest technical minds in the space. We're committed to delivering top-tier technical content to the global Web3 community. We're thrilled to have you all with us today. To stay in the loop for future events and updates, please join our main group on Telegram. There you can find most of the important stuff. And I encourage you to follow and subscribe to all our platforms. We're active on Luma, meetup.com, X, YouTube, and LinkedIn. You can find everything on our website at web3devs.org or by scanning the QR code that will take you to our link tree. So special thanks to our community sponsors, Masterkey VC, an early stage venture capital firm focused on infrastructure and deep tech across the Web3 ecosystem. With a team of 16 world-class cryptographers and several technical experts led by managing partner Shauli Rejwan, Masterkey operates across all major crypto hubs. And now, without further ado, I am happy to kickstart our meetup today. So today we are diving into Web3 security with one of the most significant players in the space, Hacken, and we have a fantastic lineup for you today. So we will start with a short talk with Dyma Budorin, the founder and executive chairman at Hacken, who will share his journey and hard-earned lessons of being a founder in this industry. Plus, we will have some time for a Q&A with all of you. So stay tuned, and afterwards, we'll take a 5-minute break for coffee and refreshment to start jumping into higher technical discussion with Steven, the technical lead at Hacken. We'll be breaking down the world of prompt injection and what exactly happens when it collides with DeFi. So to bring up our speakers, Dyma and Steven, in a moment, I'll add you to the here. Hey guys, great to see you.
Hello.
Hello guys. So I would just like to start with a short introduction with both of you, and then we can start with Dima's talk, and later on with your session as well, Stephen. But just before that, maybe a short introduction about both of you.
Sure. I'm Dyma. I'm 39 years old, 2 kids, live in Abu Dhabi, Ukrainian. Previously worked for Deloitte for 8 years, a little bit for Ukrainian government, and together with my friends and colleagues, we founded Hacken in 2017. And now we're on frontier of new tech, cybersecurity, and we're excited to be here.
Amazing. Thank you, Stephen. Thank you, Dyma. Stephen, go next.
Yeah. Hello, everybody. My name is Stephen Ajayi, and I've been in the offensive security field for over a decade now. And currently, I lead the offensive security team at Hacken, which means that a lot of my time goes into auditing intelligent system, AI-based, Web2, Web3, and sometimes like a combination of both. And yeah, basically that's basically a short introduction about myself.
Amazing. Thank you so much, Stephen.
Awesome.
So I think we can start, Dyma.
Yeah. Okay. So, if you want to know my journey, well, I prepared some not tips but lesson learned. Yeah. So when we first get into crypto in 2017, I was amazed with the technology, but also I was amazed with level of untransparency, number of scams and fraud schemes in the industry. And of course, when you understand how people are fooling you, how many weak spots are in the products, um, first thought not to exploit it, of course, but to fix it and make money out of it. Yeah, so and the problem is that to make money out of it, it requires certain combination of the stars, which not usually happening. Yeah. So companies are usually spending money on cybersecurity uh, in three occasions. First occasion, they got hacked. Yeah? So they got hacked, and then we need to improve our systems. But in crypto, it's too late. And I think in modern AI world, it's also going to be quite harmful with the reputation and the number of competition that is happening. Yeah, the chances for a mistake is too big. Yeah, if for Web2 cybersecurity you got hacked, some of your data was stolen, and it's like whatever in crypto, it's like you lose the money, which is more harmful. But still, it wasn't the argument. Second, when the regulations are coming, yeah, second occasion, and we still are quite far away from the proper regulation in crypto. It's like it was already 9 years we've been in this space, and yeah, it's only like now somehow the regulations start to enable certain benefits for those who have a license. Yeah, because we still have huge players without any license operating as they were, making money, and everybody is fine. Yeah, they are not in jail, they are not prosecuted, they don't receive any fines. So the regulation here also not an option. However, the uh, I don't think this will be the same with AI, to be honest. It's just a very different scale of the industry of the crypto and AI. And the third one is when the companies are started to lose revenue because they become not competitive. Yeah, and this is actually when how the smart contract audits have appeared. Yeah, and became the industry standard is, I would say, with the introduction of coin market cap badges, this starts to become a trend. Yeah, so the community started to understand that okay, some of the projects did have audits, some not. Why? They started to ask questions to the project founders, and and this question started to be annoyed, and and the company started to do sometimes not the proper audits, sometimes just the, I don't know, ERC20 contract audit with 40 lines of code. But that it's kind of worked. It also worked with the CoinGecko introducing the trust score for the cryptocurrency exchanges. When exchanges started to be evaluated by the security work that they do, and this has had an impact. But still, it's not. It's still community efforts, right? So when you are doing the business, you have to understand not only how big is the problem. Yeah, so we still have huge unresolved problems in the industry, but how big, and not only how big is the market, also how willing are the projects that you want to give the service to are willing to buy and spend money. Yeah. So this is the lesson learned, and why it's important, because at Hacken we have built quite a lot of amazing products, amazing tools, amazing services, which never had enough market reaction, and it's just when you have a first mover advantage, you need to understand that you also need to create the market for yourself. Yeah, so it's not just like, okay, I have an amazing product, everybody wants to buy it. No, you have to work on the demand, and this is the hardest part. Yeah, so for many like products that I'm saying right now, we were ahead of the time. Like for example, for proof of reserves, yeah, we've been trying to scream about it for a very long time, and only like maybe 2 years ago it started to get the traction after FTX collapse. But even though it's still like right now the proof of reserve audit that we are doing, it's like it's not the level of assurance that I want to uh, produce as an auditor. But it's a little bit better than nothing. But a lot of exchanges are not are doing very limited assessments only for their biggest assets, and we still don't have a deep dive into their liabilities, and especially for the mid and small cap tokens where all the dirt is. So yeah, it's but again, soon maybe regulators, maybe some other angles that will lead them to do the proper stuff and go from shades, but it's just a matter of time. And today, our presentation is about the elephant in the room that um, that is growing fast, and we don't have a doubt that this is exactly the case when everybody will speak about it, that the security of LLMs and the agentic infrastructure from the first hacks, from the first leaks, and from the first broken LLMs, from the prompt injections from outside. And this is something that is definitely on the frontier and is definitely going to help you if you are building your own AI infra. And yeah, we have amazing Steven, who is AI fanatic, I would say. And the good thing that he's on the edge of two technologies, cybersecurity and AI. And he is not only building AI tools and infrastructure, but he also is hacking his own infrastructure and other people infrastructure. Yeah, so this is a very valuable webinar workshop. Thank you, Amit, for this opportunity. I will personally make a copy for this webinar and make a link and distribute to my beloved clients and partners, because I think it's a very, very important topics. So yeah, I leave the stage. Steven, it's all yours. And in 1 hour or something, I'm gonna return to answer the question if you will have. Thank you for attention.
Awesome, Dyma. Thank you so much. Also, if you still have like 5 minutes left, I would love for you to walk us through just in short, like how did you get to where you're today? Like just a bit of background on you, on your journey.
All right, sure. Yeah, like as I said, I when I was a kid, I was good at math, and I got a job at Deloitte very young, at 19 years old, and I was building career there as IT and financial auditors, mostly working in controls, doing SOX assessment. This Oregon's Act that assesses the controls over big corporations, if they are public companies, especially, which was created just after the big scandal of Enron in end of 90s. And yeah, the knowledge of the controls and risk is my key competence. And for example, I hate seeing centralized exchanges not doing shit about third-party controls assessment. We still don't know shit about what happened in October last year with the liquidations. Who made money? Who lost money? What exactly happened? No forensic company have ever made assessment of the exchanges who liquidated so many people. And this is another pain. Like yeah. And why? And yeah, when we first started in 2017, it was an accident, to be honest. We have I was in charge of building cybersecurity center for Ukrainian military consortium. We have and we were already following crypto a lot, and there was an event in Ukraine, startup pitching competition for the prize pool of 100 bitcoins. I'm not joking. And we participated there with the idea of tokenized bug bounty, and we actually won. We won 33 bitcoins, and yeah, that was crazy. 2017, the price of BTC was a little bit above 3,000, so it was around 100k, a lot of money. And yeah, but there was one condition: you need to make an ICO to get this money. So we did a ICO. It was a decent ICO. Like at that time, anything was raising 20 mil. We didn't manage to raise 20 mil. We were too afraid to send a Range Rover worth of traffic every day. This is what you needed to do in order to raise $20 million. Yeah, you basically need to spend on traffic, on CoinMarketCap, and some other resources around 100k per day. And we were just like, we were new, we didn't know, we were too afraid of doing that. But the reality is that, yeah, we raised some money and we started to build Hacken. We quite quickly built the Hacken Proof Bug Bounty platform, which right now is, well, for that time, it was too early for crypto in terms of bug bounty. Like, it's like no one was even doing pen tests, and smart contracts was not like, it was no such term smart contract at that time. So bug bounty is even like forget about it. And yeah, right now it's a very successful product, but we were struggling for quite a few years with this product, with the revenue. But what what helped us, yeah, is helped adaptability. So we're adapting to the environment, to what the market was wanting, but staying focused in the cybersecurity domain. We were quite quickly setting up the smart contract auditing business. It was late 2017, early 2018. And we also decided to be very focused on the other type of players, which are centralized exchanges. And we started to make a lot of loud investigations on centralized exchanges. And we were doing wash trading investigation over the big players. Some manipulations were all loud. And I remember after one investigation, CoinMarketCap founder Brandon Chess, he found my Telegram and wrote me that he gonna sue my ass off, because we were claiming that CoinMarketCap, by just broadcasting the numbers that exchanges were given as the trading volume for tokens, are part of the market manipulation, because people trust CoinMarketCap and they make false investment decisions, which he said, this is bad. I said, this is something that you need to change. And that was the moment when we together designed the Data Accountability and Transparency Alliance, which all the exchanges, major ones, joined, and we introduced the new rules for the volume metrics. This is the period when order book metric has appeared, and we some formula to adjust the volume based on the trade inside spread and the order book values. So it was a good thing. Yeah, then CoinMarketCap was bought by Binance, and our cooperation with CMC wasn't that let's say efficient anymore, and we started to cooperate more with CoinGecko. And with CoinGecko, we, like as I said, we have participated in the Trust Core developments, and with our CERDAT Live rankings, security rankings. And this is how we started to have certain brand name in the space. And yeah, we went through two bear cycles. Yeah, 2019 was a disaster. 2023 was also very difficult. But we were never giving up, even when we didn't have anything to pay for the salaries. Yeah, we were shrinking, but we just love what we do. We love and hate our industry. You need to love and hate. Yeah, you don't need to love it only. You need to hate it sometimes as well. So to be more motivated, to think outside of the box. So yeah, we had different products that have success, that don't have success. But we always keep on the frontier of the new tech. And right now, our next chapter is going to be focused on the from the digital asset space on the educating the institutional adoption with our rankings and risk rankings and the for the crypto projects, centralized exchanges, the RWAs, stablecoins, and so on. And with our enterprise level security solutions, including products and services. Yeah, that is for digital asset space. And for AI, we see a very big security risk, I would say, of purely set up LLMs and agentic infrastructure that can collapse the operations of companies. Yeah. And not only from data leakage or a point of view, but which is more important from the wrong decision making process. Yeah. So we expect, uh, like, it's not a secret that, for example, uh, DDoS attack, let's say, um, owners are usually competitors over competitors. Yeah, generally. Yeah, hack attacks, especially in Instagram. I don't know. It's like girlfriend against boyfriend. Yeah, and we see the same story will happen in AI. Yeah, so prompt injections is something that can definitely break LLM if you don't put enough efforts. The current stance of AI, it still struggle to know where is truth and where is false. It still struggles to not to open all the links you send it to him, and it still struggles to um, um, to with the memory. Yeah. So even if he was giving you some valid results and valid decision making from the when you just set it up, if there is some malicious prompts or competitors prompts, whatever you call them, it can start giving you different results. So not only this, but a lot of other very technical security issues will be covered by Steven. And I really believe that this market is going to be big. Um, and yeah.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Dima. If you have to jump, then we'll continue with the questions
Yeah.
after your return. And thank you so much. We'll see you soon.
Yeah. So,
Hey, Steven.
Hello, hello. Hey,
Good
Hamid.
to see you. So, feel free to share your screen, and also I'll put you in the middle.
Just a second. I need
Yeah, no worries.
to. Okay, so I might need to jump out and jump in again. Mark security issues. Yeah,
You
just
know it
just
better
a
than I do. Yeah,
moment.
no
Yeah.
problem.
Okay.
I'll wait for you here. In the meantime,
Let's see. Okay. I think it's fine. Okay. Yeah. No.
okay, I'll take this few seconds that I have. In the meantime, if any of you in the audience have any questions for Dyma or something that came up through the talk that you want us to ask him later when he comes back, feel free to share it in the comments. We'll all see it here, and we'll make sure to share it with Dyma once he returns.
Here I
And,
go.
hey, Steven.
Hello, hey Hamid. Okay, let me share my screen. Can everybody see my screen?
Okay, yeah, now we can see it.
Okay. All right. So I guess we can jump straight right to it.
Awesome.
All right. Hello again, everybody. Thank you for being here, for listening to my boring talk today. My name is Stephen Ajayi. I am a cybersecurity engineer, and I'm focused on the offensive side. All my life, I have worked with managed service security vendors on the cybersecurity side, and I've dabbled around other cybersecurity niches like incident response, forensic, malware analysis, but I've always been full of on offensive security. So right now, I lead the offensive security team at Hacking, and a lot of my time, my work time and my free time goes into building and auditing intelligence system like LLM chatbots, AI agents, or building them, right? And I also do the traditional penetration testing and red teaming. So it depends on what the client actually wants. Okay, I am also the author of two AI security books. The first one being the In the Age of Autonomous AI Agent and AI Red Teaming Handbook for red teamers. So if you are a builder, right, the first one is for you. And if you're on the offensive side, red teaming is what you do. The second one is for you. I will be releasing the next latest version because this one was released like almost a year ago, sometime around Q2. So if you want to have a look at this, you can check it on the Hacking website, or immediately after the webinar, I can just drop a link so that it can be shared, right? So now, about the matter at hand, the reason why we're having this conversation today is that over the past few months, I've been watching us make the same mistake we've been making for a very long time, right? Because in Web3, we have spent a lot of years learning a very hard lesson, right? Which is if a system trusts the wrong thing, somebody is going to eventually notice. And when they notice, the bill is always going to arrive. And the bill is usually, yeah, very expensive. And that is why security organizations and serious teams actually spend a lot of money and resources on security audits, bug bounty, multi-sig, governance review, and all the control we now take seriously. And in modern AI system, we are repeating the same mistake from scratch all over again, right? And I want to walk us through what is going to happen when AI, I mean, it's already happening, but I'm not sure we have had any serious incident, right? When the Web3 and the AI collide, right? So as we know, smart contracts trust signers, AI trusts the natural language, right? And most of the time, this trust model lives in different rooms. But immediately you give an assistant the ability to call tools, the moment it can construct a transaction, those rooms are not different anymore, right? It's becoming one already. And it's something we actually really need to talk about because here's the thing. I have come to believe that through my work and years of research that the most failure is not in when it comes to AI related solution, it's not text generation, right? It's not a bad summary or LLM generating recipe for Molotov cocktail or whatnot, right? Because most organizations don't care about that. It is not their use case. It is the moment where a manipulated system can carry out critical actions. And in Web3, that action has to do with value. And when a normal chatbot fail, as I've said earlier on, it might leak your data, it might even embarrass your brand or waste somebody else's afternoon. But when a DeFi agent fails, you lose money, right? Sometimes it might be very fast. Sometimes you lose it like over a short period, a long period of time. And very often it's always in a way that you cannot undo, right? That is why we're having this conversation today. And that is why it actually deserves like real attention, right? So, before we jump into the nitty-gritty of today, let me just take us through the different section. I'm not going to read this slide by slide, not to waste anybody's time. But first, we're going to talk talking about the collision, why AI plus DeFi is actually becoming a thing right now, and why it's actually expanding the attack surface, and why there is the OWASP top 10 for LLMs. We have the OWASP top 10 for smart contract as well. Then we'll talk about threat modeling, and we'll talk about the 5-step kill chain a DeFi agent gets walked through, like end to end. Then we'll dive into the attack pattern, talk a bit about it. There are a bit of real world cases we need to talk about as well. We're not going to dive into everything. We're just going to talk about a few of them. Then we'll close it with validation, gap analysis, and few takeaways, right? All right. So to the collision, this is actually the thesis of the whole talk today because it's really important and we need to like spend a bit of time in here. So on the left side, you have the OWASP top 10 for LLM, which is talking about AI related issues around prompt injection, improper output, handling excessive agency. And we also have so much more. Right, for people that are really interested, you can check that out on OWASP website. Then the OWASP top 10 is actually like a rule book for most red teamer. If you're a red teamer carrying out red teaming and you've not seen this book, then I don't know what you're doing, right? And on the right-hand side, we have the OWASP smart contract top 10 for smart contract related issue, which is the classic Web3 issues like access control issue, business logic vulnerability, reentrancy, and the likes of it. Now, up to now, right, LLM, which is closely related to Web2, and smart contracts have been treated as separate discipline, right? Different teams, different audit track, different conversation, and even in the same company, you hardly see an AI engineer and a protocol engineer often have something to talk about because what they do is totally different. But the very moment that an automated system can call to, can construct a transaction or sign a payload, or even push governance action, those two words are not separate anymore. They become the same system because together they share a blast radius. And you can see the shape of risk in the recent incident, even though it's not Web3 based, AI based, it's actually Web3 based, which is Drift. Drift lost about $285 million in April. There's also Resolve that lost about, I think, 23 million in March. And neither of those are AI native hack. And this is why I keep bringing them up, because they show us clearly what happens when compromised control plane cost in the real world. If a human operator that is operating this system can be social engineered, Then if you're giving this system to an AI or an AI agent, an AI automated agent can also be prompt engineered. Now, if a signer can be over trusted, a connected signer or an autonomous signer can be over trusted in the same way, but this time it's only faster and at a much, much lower cost to the attacker. Then, to layer the trend at the top, there's also Cetic that has been reporting AI assisted incident for quite a bit of time now. And the detection rate right now is almost 90%. And there's also the state-driven crypto evasion, which is up to nearly 700% year after year. The signal is not subtle at all anymore. Attackers are coming up with new techniques. I mean, there's AI, right? People basically use AI to hack AI, not to talk about Web3. And the techniques are getting really intelligent and really subtle. Now, the honest question for the rest of us is whether we as builders are we adapting enough to keep up? Now, to make this concrete, I've prepared a table which looks very simple, but it actually carries a lot of weight. And I want to slow us down here for a minute so that we can go through this table. And in the table, we have two different sections. We have the traditional LLM hub and the DeFi LLM agent, right? Now, in a traditional LLM app, what they do is they generate text, right? Natural language, convert it to token, that's what they understand. A DeFi agent can generate transactions, which means that when a hack happens, a traditional LLM can leak data, while a DeFi LLM agent can drain assets, right? A normal assistant application can send email, help you book your calendar, look up the weather, summarize, make you very efficient, because LLM is actually very good in making everybody efficient. I'm sure if we do like a raise of hand to ask who has used or who haven't used LLM today, nobody would raise their hand, right? Because it makes us very efficient. Now, it's different when it comes to a DeFi agent. A DeFi agent called critical smart contract function, right? Function that move real value on a network. And the network does not even care who the caller is, whether they are meant to do it or not. Now, the failure mode here is actually shifting in a very fundamental way, in the sense that we are moving from a probabilistic environment, which is sometimes recoverable, sometimes not. We are then moving to a deterministic financial loss, which is usually not recoverable. Now, Web 2 has given us like a bit of preview. There's this hack that happened a while back, which is about Slack AI, which is like one of the cleanest example I can give. And the hack basically happened based on summaries and link that is embedded in some of the chat on Slack. Now, that was enough to become an exfiltration path for an attacker. Then there's also an example, which is Ecoleak, right? Something similar in an enterprise environment, where an hidden instruction in retrieve content is just sitting down there, and it turned an assistant into a data carrier, right? Different product and the same family of mistake. Now, in every one of those cases, the worst case scenario is just a data leak. It might be embarrassing to the organization. There might be, there's also regulatory fine attached to it. But usually, you can always contain it. But in Web3, we don't have that luxury, right? Because that same architectural mistake does not just leak a mailbox, right? It moves money. And once you can move money, the bar for good enough has to move with it. So now, let's actually talk about what happened and how this attack actually happened. We're going to walk through the kill chain so that we understand how the attack are actually layered on top of each other. Now, one of the things I've learned from carrying out offensive security audit, or AI red teaming, as some people might call it, is that prompt injection might sound a bit mystical until you actually get the time to walk through it from the start to the bottom. And once you do, the whole process is going to stop feeling like magic and start feeling like sequence. And the good thing about sequence is sequence can be detected. Now, let me slow it down and walk through the process properly, and because it only starts to make sense when you see it like a chain of small steps. Now, let's talk about the first step that happened in a queue chain, especially when it comes to DeFi. The very first one is injection, prompt injection. All of us are aware about prompt injection, where you type in malicious text into the system and it gets into the LLM or the agent, and it gets into the system context. And that text can come from a normal user, from a malicious user. It can come from a document that is being summarized. It can come from token metadata. It can come from governance proposal. Anywhere the system can read, an attack can come from there, whether direct or indirectly. And a simple rule of thumb in when it comes to AI is, if your agent or your AI can read it, it can be influenced by it. Now, the second step after the prompt injection is the hijack. Now, this is the process where the malicious text step turns into something it should follow, right? Instead of something that it should just describe. For example, if I tell my agent to go to a website and fetch some information from me, for example, I want to look at the token price on one of these centralized exchanges, and it found an hidden text, right? It's not supposed to follow the instruction. It's supposed to summarize it, right? But yeah, usually that's not what happens, right? It follows it, and that is just the beginning. Now, if the agent follows that instruction it found, the agent is going to carry out an action. And most of the time, the action usually is maybe they're calling the wrong tool or the right tool or the wrong parameter. And from the framework point of view, from the agent itself, from the point of view, it's actually doing the right thing, right? It's helping you. It's an assistant. Nothing is broken. It's doing exactly what you design it for. Now, that is the abuse. Now, step 4 is where it builds the transaction, right? That is the part that makes every builder in whether Web2 or Web3 very uncomfortable, because the agent is then going to construct something, do something in Web3, maybe it's a transaction, and the transaction can be technically valid or completely well-formed while still being entirely malicious. And then for the last stage, it's execution. As long as you can bypass the first, second, third, fourth, is execution, right? You sign the transaction, you sign the transaction, broadcast it, and then money gone, damage is done. And this is one of the reasons why whenever an hack happens that has to do with AI in Web2 related system, and they say the system was strict, yeah, that may be true, but that is only step 2 when it gets hijacked, right? The money is lost, or the malicious action actually went through because nobody is there to interrupt it. Nobody is thinking about what comes next after the first 2 attempts. Now, the real engineering failure is that step 3, step 4, and 5 were allowed to proceed without anybody or the system asking question. So the mental model worth holding on to about this is that prompt injection is not a single failure, right? It is actually a pipeline failure. Now, step 1 is actually one of the most underestimated steps in the whole chain, because in Web3, the places where malicious text can enter are not what the places most teams are actually looking at, and we're going to talk about that in this slide, which is the attack surfaces. Now, in Web3, it gets really interesting, right? At least if you are an attacker. And the important thing is that the attack surface is not just the chatbot anymore. right? As I said earlier on, the rule of thumb is if your LLM can read it, it can be influenced by it, right? Now, think about how many places that could be, right? There's token metadata, there's governance proposal, event log, every document, Oracle label, transaction, memos. The list keep growing every day as this system gets more capable. Now, all of this looks like harmless data. They feel very not, but immediately they can sit on chain or in a storage, and nobody is looking at them too hard. But any of them can actually be read, right? They can be summarized by agents. They can be put into context as part of what the AI agent is meant to do, because it's just when you go through them and see the metadata and try to like analyze them, it's just doing its job, right? So, and what that means in practice is that a malicious payload does not need to come from a chat box, right? It can be planted on chain or near chain, for example. And it might just be sitting there for a very long period of time till an AI agent just walk past it and pick it up. So the attacker may never even have the time to even speak to the victim at all, or social engineer the victim, or send a malicious link that the victim should click or not. No, they might not never even need to do that at all. They might not even know who the victim is going to be. Now, this is the same family of issue we've already seen played across Web 2 almost all the time. Hidden instructions sitting inside retrieved content, and then it gets summarized and turned into something the system blindly trusts, right? Different ecosystem, right? I'm talking about Web 2 and Web 3, but the same architectural mistake. Now, the difference between us is in Web 2, it's data leakage, or sending your token to another email and stuff like that. In Web3, it's very expensive. Now, with all of that attack surface in mind, let's walk through one of the two attack paths that are common when it comes to AI. And the very first one is what we'll be talking about, as the direct prompt injection. And this is the obvious one. Definitely everybody listening to this presentation actually knows about prompt injection. And honestly, this is why most team usually dismiss it, right? So as you said, the user types something into the AI agent, and the AI agent maliciously just follow it without thinking about if it might be right or wrong. And in DeFi, it's going to lead to wallet drain. But the part I really want you to focus on is not the payload itself. It is the mitigation gap underneath the system. The only reason why a prompt injection is going to work is because there's no output validation. Maybe the system does not have any policy gateway, and there's no human in the loop, right, to review high risk action, critical action, nothing that stop a malicious instruction from becoming a malicious transaction. And as a security auditor, what that tells me every time I see it is that maybe the organization are letting the system prompt do all the work, and that is very wrong. System prompts are not security boundaries. They are merely suggestion. Now, treating them as security control is one of the common mistakes a lot of organizations make, and it still happens. It's going to keep happening. Now, if you want a public example, let's look at Freezer. So the mechanics is a bit different from a normal DeFi agent, but the lesson is still the same way anyways. So the attacker did not break any contracts, like they did not expect a bug. They simply changed the system interpretation of what is safe action, and it just followed it, right? That is the entire attack surface, just a reframing. Now, that is why you can see when someone is carrying out AI red teaming, you send the first question, the first prompt, it doesn't work. You find a way to reframe it nicer, even assume role, like you can assume role of an internal auditor, a developer, and whatnot, and the system is going to take it as rule and execute whatever you want it to do, right? So, and there is also another example, which is very common. I think most non-DeFi audience might relate to this, which is the issue of Chevrolet chatbot incident, right? When somebody just talked to a bot into agreeing to sell a Tahoe for just $1, right? Different stake, the same weaknesses, right? A system that can be argued out of its own policy by just clever framing. But it's funny when it's a car, because the guy didn't drive the car home, right? Like, it was actually caught in time. But it's not going to be funny if it's an asset on chain, if it's a vault, for example. So that is prompt injection. Now, for the second pattern, which is indirect prompt injection, this attack pattern actually, it can catch anybody off guard. Even some of the top organizations today, their LLMs still fall for this type of attack. And in my experience, it's one of the ones you should actually take seriously. Now, let's give a bit of scenario, because this is the type of thing that looks very harmless until you actually say it out loud, right? For example, let's say you have an AI agent that can look up token information, something completely routine, no malicious intent. And in the process, it reads a token name, and the token has been crafted to contain a malicious instruction. Now, the system is going to treat that instruction as part of this job. And then what happens? It's going to call a critical or a sensitive function. And it might be the attacker telling the agent to transfer funds from the address to the attacker home address and stuff like that. It can be anything, right? So another thing we need to know is, now there is no interaction between the attacker and the victim. They might not even know who the victim is, right? The system is just acting on planted text because it has the capability to look up that information. Now, this pattern has been there since the AI has become like a thing. And we have seen it before, where untrusted content was pulled into context, and the system downstream just treats the context as instruction instead of data, right? And what changes in Web3 is just the source, right? And very important, the cost of getting it wrong. The content source might move from a document or an email to something reaching on the chain itself, right? And that is the architectural mistake that actually stays the same. Because in Web3, token metadata is dangerous precisely because it looks very benign, right? It's boring. It's just name, symbols, it's just description, not really interesting. It's all cosmetic data, and that's it. And boring data is actually the kind of thing that attacker would want to like plant instruction, and it's the same kind of thing that security team in organization might not even take seriously. They might not even threat model it, right? So the deeper lesson here is that the most dangerous inputs are really the dramatic ones, right? They are actually the ones your architecture has already quietly decided that nah, they are nothing, they are harmless. And token metadata is just one clean example. There are a lot of examples when it comes to Web3, right? So it's the same family of attacks, same core mistake. The system was treating the untrusted content or untrusted content like data and acted on it, right? It treated it like an instruction. Now, if those two patterns is what we have to defend against in Web3, the obvious question that we're going to be asking ourselves is, what actually works? Now, that is not actually better prompting. It's actually better architecture, right? Which is why we're going to be talking about the defense in depth. Now, the architectural answer that we have been looking for is defense in depth, right? We need to have different layer of security. We can't just rely on one layer, right? So the distinction is where most team actually get their security model wrong. Now, when we talk about defense in depth, we also talk about like different things you can actually do, build on each other that is going to stop this type of attack. And today we're going to be talking about 7 layer, right? Layer 1 and 2 matters a lot. That's input filtering and sanitization, and then system prompt handling, right? I want to be clear about that. They are very important, right? But don't take them as gospel, right? You can't take them as gospel. Now, layer 3 through 7 are the real security level, right? That's where you have like tool minimization, outputs, validation, policy gating, better role-based access control, human confirmation, monitoring and alerting, and all that. So those layers are actually code. They can be tested, they can be versioned, they can be reviewed in a pull request, they can be enforced by your continuous integration. They behave the same way every time on every prompt in every language, right? That is what deterministic means here. Now, and that's one of the reasons why I'm talking about that layer 1 or 2, you should do it, but they are still probabilistic, right? So you actually want to have a deterministic defense in depth on top of each other. Now, underneath all these 7 layers, there is really one design principle that's holding everything together, right? Which is whenever you're building an autonomous agent or an intelligent agent, right, that's using AI, the assistant should always be allowed to only propose, right? It should not be allowed to decide on critical actions or sensitive actions. Now, that design principle, if you apply it honestly, it's going to remove a surprising amount of fragility from any automated system, because it's also the principle that we're going to be talking about in the next stage, because all of those layers, right? I think there is one very important thing that any team actually needs to start with, and that is the transaction policy gateway. Now, I'm really excited about this section, and honestly, it is the part of an architecture I wish most architectural team or development team or security team actually takes serious, right? The security defense in depth should start at the beginning of a project, not you starting to bolt it at the end, right? Security cannot be an afterthought. It has to be part of the process. Now, the transaction policy gateway has to sit beside or in between the system and the signer. I mean, not even in between, it has to sit in front of it, because every system transaction that the system proposes has to pass through this layer before anything gets signed. Now, the gateway does not ask the question that gets most team in trouble, right? What does the system mean? No, that is the hard question, right? And you do not want to anchor your answer on that. The gateway is actually asking something very simple. Do these transaction parameters satisfy the list of hard rules you have actually implemented or you have in the backend, right? That is the question you can answer with regular code, and the answer stays the same always, all the time. Is that you have like a blacklist or a whitelist of those hard rules. Now, actually, blacklist is better than whitelist, because whitelist you can still find a way to bypass it. Now, these rules themselves are really straightforward, right? It can be $5,000 maximum per transaction. You have like an address allow list, no infinite approval, no interaction rate contracts that is less than 3 months, for example. You can add rate limiting on top of it. You can have like a circuit breaker and so on and so forth. You can layer all these security mechanisms on top of each other. Now, these mechanisms or this policy gateway are not glamorous at all, and that is exactly why they work. One of the things I've come to believe through this work is that good security, I mean, good application security or security as a whole, usually looks very boring, right? Because it's a pile of small annoying rules on top of each other that stop exciting failure from happening. Now, when you're launching, nobody's going to put this rule in your launch announcement, right? But they're actually the reason why the launch announcement is not going to turn into a post-mortem 6 months after, or even a few weeks after, right? So this is also the layer where the work stops feeling like exotic and starts feeling like classic application security again. Because once the system has proposed a transaction, the transaction is just treated as untrusted input that could cost you real money. Then you should now validate it the same way you validate any other system. For example, XSS SQL injection, you have your input validation, you have like a lot of libraries you can use to stop that, or you make sure that from the code you are validating everything. You have you're using like dependencies and libraries to stop it. Then you're making sure that everything is actually strict and everything should actually follow a policy, right? Deterministically. That's the same thing you want to apply here. So it feels like you're actually carrying out application security even on an autonomous system. So the goal of all this is when you put it together, it's actually very simple. The layer is going to turn from the system was tricked, that's from a catastrophic loss into something that was blocked with an alert, right? The system can actually fail completely, right? The malicious will still get stopped out of the way. It never gets to where it actually executes the transaction, which is one of the things we should actually be looking at when building the system. Now, for cases where policy is not enough, there is also another thing we can do, which is having human in the loop. Now, I think human in the loop is also another phrase that gets used a lot, right? Most of the time, it's being used badly, right? Usually, it shows up in conversation, and most organizations use it as a comfort blanket. Right? Whenever you ask them, "How did this happen?" or "This thing can happen," they'll tell you, "Don't worry, somebody is going to have a look at it," and that is not control. That is just story, right? And what this approach does is, and what I really like about it is treating human review as a tired control. Because to be honest, you don't have to review everything as human. Not all tool call or transaction that happen on chain actually deserve the same friction, right? You can tire them. For example, let's talk about low risk. For stuff that has to do with like read-only queries, like for example, you're trying to get price or get balance, and stuff like that that does not really carry any value, you can make it auto-approve, right? Because nothing ever goes back from you reading, getting the price of a particular token or not. It's basically online, right? It's on blockchain explorer. Anybody can look it up, right? So there is no value in interrupting a human to confirm a price lookup. Now, let's move from small risk or low risk to medium risk. Stuff like small swap, anything under $100. Try and show a summary, right? One click, just if you use a summary, one click and move on. That is enough to give the user a chance to review what they are signing before they sign it, then carry on if they want to, without making the experience too painful. Now, for high risk transaction, let's say large transaction, let's say something over 1,000, you need to do the full review, right? Show the destination clearly, verify the address. The agent should verify the address, should make the user actually look at where the money is going before they carry out the transaction, right? So that's another way to do it. Then for critical transaction that has to do with cross-chain bridges, brand new addresses integrated, or large amount of approvals, you have to have like two-factor authentication on top of it, like the hard wallet, and you can even have like a 60 seconds delay before the transaction can even broadcast. So those are the type of friction that an attacker cannot walk quietly past by. Now, the design idea is that most teams actually get wrong is that If you put a hardware wallet ceremony in front of him, every harmless read, your user will be like, I mean, why do we need all this? Right? Because user usually train their self to ignore every control you put to protect them. Right? A lot of people don't read terms and agreement, me inclusive. I mean, a lot of people don't read this, right? For example, let's say you're signing up for something and they have like a 1001 page for terms and agreement. You don't read it. I think one of the way people go about it right now is just pass it to AI, let AI summarize it, you get your context and move on. Now, if you do not put real friction in front of approval and large transaction, attacker are going to love you for it. Now, the goal is not to make the whole process frictioned. The goal is actually to friction it at the right time, right? And that is a product decision as much as it's actually a security one. And I think all teams that get this right are the ones that actually treat their UX right with the same type of security they treat the rest of the product. Now, I want to ground this conversation in real incident because everything I've said since is just easy and theory, and we can just nod and just move on. But let's talk about one very interesting case that happened just this month, right? So now, one thing about drift is actually not prompt injection, right? It it has nothing to do with LLMs, or there's no system that got jailbroken and stuff like that. And you might be wondering why I'm bringing it into this conversation. I just want you to stay with me, yeah, so that we get the full context. Now, I think this is one of the most important case study in this talk, right? Which is why it's the one we're talking about, right? So, about drift, April this year, which is basically this month, beginning of this month, the drift protocol lost $280 million gone. The attacker did not break the smart contract. They did not find a reentrancy bug or an access control issue. They did not exploit any marks. What they did was to be very patient. They spent around 6 months, 6 good months, working their way into the trust circle of the people who actually hold the key. I don't know who they are. It might be the Security Council, real human beings, right? Engineers, contributors, and whatnot, multi-signature signers, right? The people the protocol actually dependent on, right, for critical approval, sensitive changes. And one by one, this group of people were nudged into signing things they did not fully understand. Now, which was a durable non-transaction, mostly. Now, the kind of payload that looks routine, if you don't actually go through it and actually read it correctly, like really carefully to understand the content, and it might look like very catastrophic if you take your time to do. Now, they took their time and gathered like a lot of signatures, right? And they were able to pass the governance threshold, and they created a fake collateral token, and it was whitelisted, and they got the wallet or the vault drained. 6 good months of grooming, and the actual execution took about 90 seconds. Now, I want us to sit with that for a second, right? 6 months of setup and 90 seconds of theft. The contract actually behaved exactly the way it's supposed to, right? The signer signed it, the chain executed it. From the protocol point of view, it's just doing what it's meant to do. Nothing went wrong. Everything that happened was authorized, right? The attack was not on the code. The attack was actually on the control plane, which is the human that decide what actually gets signed. Now, this is the picture I want to paint. Let's take that story, right? Same payload, same fake token, same governance flow, and in your head, take out the human council member, right, and put an automated agent in that set. The timeline is going to compress dramatically, right? Because an attacker going after automation does not need 6 months. They don't need to have like burner telegram. They don't need to read or build rapport with any human. They don't even need a lot, right? They don't need that. They just need one very good prompt injection or prompt document, or just find a way to like make the system read from where it's normally supposed to read. And if you don't have like good guardrails, or if you don't have layered security in depth, that's going to be like disastrous, right? It's going to be same outcome but different clock, and the clock is what should actually scale us as builders. So the reason drift belongs to this conversation is that drift is like the human version of the attack we are all trying to defend against, right? It is the same attack pattern, just running on a slower processor because it took them 6 good months. Now it changes the kind of question we should be asking ourselves now. The question is not, is the model smart enough? Right? Because you don't want to base your security on that. The question is not, did we harden our prompt properly? Right? The question is actually the one I've been circling about all afternoon. What is actually sitting between the proposed action and the signed transaction? Right? Do we have like a policy gateway? Now, with all that being said, the lessons from Drift should sound like very familiar to you now, right? You need to simulate before you sign. Do not let any human automated system approve a payload that they cannot read. You need to make intention legible to the reviewer, not just legible to the protocol itself. You need to put real gate, layered defense, right? Defense in depth in front of anything that is irreversible or that might cost you a lot of money. That is actually defense in depth. And we've actually been describing it in different names all afternoon. Drift is just like the version of the story that already happened with a price tag. Now, the automated version is coming because there are a lot of engineers building exciting products out there, completely autonomous and agentic. And without proper security embedded in that architecture, it's going to look almost exactly like this one, right? It will just happen faster. Now, we are using Drift as a cautionary tale, but we need to hand ourselves it's okay, because in my experience, the gap between automation team and protocol team is really about who cares more. It's about having a shared language in the same risk, right? Now, I do not want anybody in the room to memorize this. Actually, we're going to still share the slide, right? That is not why the reference is here. So the reason for this slide is simple, because I want you to be able to take a mental picture of it, talk about it to your team, right? And you can also use it as a translation layer between two group of engineers who are usually working on the same risk but from different angle. Now, on the side of the table, right, you have the language which has to do with the prompt injection, improper output, excessive agency, right? On the smart contract side, we have access control and the different vulnerability in smart contract. What I want after this conversation is for those two columns to be talking to each other. Now, when your automation engineer say, this is a prompt injection problem, I want your protocol engineer to hear, this means that this can actually lead to a wallet drain. And when your smart contract is telling you the smart contract still, like, for example, enforce its own limit, I want your AI automation engineer to hear, that means the caller can fail without taking the system down. Now, those are the same conversation, but most teams don't just realize it yet. And one of the things I have come to believe doing this work is that having a shared language in an organization is actually underrated. And it's a very critical security control. It is very hard to fix a system when people describing the risk are speaking two different languages of the same problem. So this table is just like a small attempt to just bridge that gap. Now, let's close this whole conversation that we've been having since morning with 5 things we can actually go as builders, as Web3 developers or Web2 developers, that we can actually go and implement this sprint. The first thing is you need to separate the brain from the hand, right? The assistant should be able to propose. The policy engine should be able to decide. If your architecture does not look like this today, that means you're doing the wrong thing. That is the first thing you would actually change. Secondly, you need to treat all external data as untrusted. As long as your AI or your automated system can read it, it is untrusted. On-chain data included. In fact, on-chain data especially, right? Because the fact that something comes from on-chain or from a smart contract does not mean that it's actually safe to feed into your system. Then, thirdly, is least privilege for every tool. If an agent does not need to carry out transaction, why do you need to give it that functionality? For example, let's say you have an agent that only needs to look for price or discover price and all that. There is no reason why you should give it an execution authority, right? So role-based access control is actually very important. The size of an agent permission is the size of your blast radius as an organization. And you want to reduce this to the barest minimum and test it. Fourthly, human gate for reversible action is very important. We've been talking about it, human in the loop. It shouldn't be everywhere, right? Don't make it very painful. Just the things that backfires. The critical action, the sensitive action in the place that actually matters, where you can't actually reverse an action. That is where you should have your human in the loop. Now, logging is very important. You want to log everything, right? You want to log the entire chain, the prompt, the reasoning, the tool call. And I think that's one thing Web3 is actually different from Web2 because we have like a log trail. Now, put that into your automation. If you can add it on chain, please do have it on chain, right? Log everything so that in case something happened, you can actually trace it back. Now, if you can only do one of these, make sure that you have a policy gateway. If you can do two, make sure that all data is untrusted, right? You had output validation to it. If you can do three, please, human in the gate for irreversible action is very important, right? And whatever you do, right, please, as builders in Web3, do not leave the signer sitting directly downstream to the assistant because that would be a very terrible mistake to make. That is the same architectural mistake that almost every bad story on this topic eventually traces back to. And it is also the easiest to fix if you see it clearly. Now, that is all I have for Ross today. Thank you all for listening to me, paying attention, and thank you for your time. If you want to continue this conversation, you can find us on hacking.io. We have a Discord channel. I think you can also reach out to us on Twitter. I am 5M477 on Twitter. And if you're building automation, like intelligent system in Web3 right now, the short version of everything I've been speaking about since morning is assume that that system you're building is going to be manipulated, then design for it. So that when that manipulation comes, it still survives. And if you're not sure about the security control you are implementing into your system, you can reach out to reputable security firms like Hacken for a proper security audit and security advisory, and we're going to take it from there. Thank you very much, and I'm happy to take questions.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Stephen. This was amazing. Let's start and open the two questions from the audience. I already got some questions on our group and in the private chat. But yeah, I would love to maybe start with how did you start your journey? I would love to hear a little bit about you and your journey. How did you get to where you're today? And then we can dive into the questions from the audience.
Well, my offensive security journey actually started from when I was in school, right? I was really very excited about computer, unlike Dyma that was really excited about maths. I was crazy about computers and how to break them, how they work first, right? How to break them, and I started carrying out like security consultancy for like small organization, helping them carry out pen tests, giving them doing a bit of security advisory services to them before I started working with MSSP, that's Managed Security Service Provider. And with MSSP, you get to work on different range of clients because you have clients that have different technologies and different security needs, right? So I was able to work with banks, fintechs, IoT, just name it, right? Web3 and the likes of it. And then I switched from the Web2 to Web3 around, I think 2022, 2023. I can't remember because yeah, Web3 was like really booming then. Like a lot of people were talking about smart contract vulnerabilities, how they can, how you can exploit a smart contract and go away with like a lot of money. That got me really excited. But I was not looking at it from a smart contract perspective. I was looking at it from a Web2 perspective because, to be honest, there is no Web3 without Web2, right? All the infrastructure Web3 is on is still Web2 related. So I was actually in the middle, bridging Web2 and Web3, carrying security audits for centralized exchanges and all that. That's why I started my consultancy journey. I started working with organizations like Hacken. So, and then a few years ago, when AI started becoming a thing, I started looking at AI, learning how to build intelligent systems, learning how to break them, building security solutions that are really intelligent and able to carry out proper AI red teaming on target. So yeah, that's basically how I got into the offensive security. It's basically just curiosity on how things work and how what can happen if they break and what we can actually do to prevent attackers from like getting into system and stuff like that.
Awesome. I have a few more questions, and then I'll ask some questions from the audience. But like, first of all, what is like your favorite thing in what you do today, or what do you like most about your work?
I would say it's actually the boring part, to be honest. Advisory, right? To be able to walk through what you have as a developer and me giving you advice on what you actually need to do. Because security advisory is actually, most people don't take it as a serious cybersecurity service that you need, right? It's actually very important. And if you're talking to an offensive security engineer that actually know his onions, and you have him to like advise you based on what you're building, what you have internally, it's really exciting because they just paint the picture of what you actually need to see, right? What you actually need to defend on, right? The kind of threat modeling you should actually have based on the system you're building or you've built already. So I would say it's the defense in depth I spoke about earlier on, right? Where you have like layered and layered security on top of each other. And yeah, I think that's the best slide based on what I spoke about today, having like a great defense model.
Awesome. I see Dyma joined us as well. Dyma, let me know when you're ready, and we'll add you to the stage as well. But we have a few more questions for you, Steven, before we do.
Mhm.
We have a questions from the audience from Boaz. I'll put it here on the screen. Um, I can read it aloud if it will help. But my question would be: Anthropic recently announced Mythos, a model capable of autonomously finding and chaining vulnerabilities. Once models like this go open source, do you think the advantage will shift to the attackers?
Obviously, the advantage is going to shift to everybody, right? And with what the use case or the case study that Anthropic has used Meteos to carry out is actually a very powerful system, and that is why it's never going to be open source, right? To run Meteos right now on your infrastructure and all that it might cost you like a lot of money, right? I think based on what I read about a vulnerability that was discovered in, I'm not sure what organization is that. I think it cost about $20,000, right? So the model itself is for the big boys, the banks, the people that have the money to pay for it. But if eventually it goes open source, everybody is going to take advantage of it. Attacker the most, right? Because they are looking for a way to make money out of you. They want to break down your system. They want to, there's something to actually achieve, especially when it comes to Web3, right? Because there's always value involved. Definitely, an attacker is going to like take advantage of the shift, right? Regardless of mythos or not.
I have another questions like building on this, but like, what are the first steps that, let's say, just a person, not even a company, any Web3 user should take to not be the first to get hacked or attacked, or to protect themselves? If you have a good tip for us.
Yeah, I would say the very first thing, right, is actually understand social engineering, right? Because most of the attack that really affect users is usually from social engineering, right? So know when somebody is actually trying to trick you into carrying out an action you're not supposed to carry out. And this usually comes from security awareness, listening to videos, understanding how to detect those malicious attempts to social engineer you. Because if you're able to recognize an attack, you might not fall for it. You will not fall for it. Because social engineering comes in different colors and flavors and all that. But I think that's one of the topic, or that's one of the thing that as a user you need to like drench yourself in it. Security awareness, right? Immediately you're aware of the security issues, the different techniques that attacker use, how you can protect yourself, protect your private key, maybe by using a hardware wallet or by storing it somewhere, making sure that you're confirming, you're checking what you're signing and stuff like that. You will not definitely get hacked.
Yeah, it's super. Like I just almost like someone tried to do this to us not long ago, and this is really what saved us. Just like being sharp and knowing how it looks. Um,
Exactly.
so I can say this from first experience. Okay, we have some few more questions, and let's see if some of them were already answered, because you already answered a lot of things during the presentation. But let's say developer mistakes. We have a lot of developers in the community, as you are aware. Um, and if you can share some developer mistakes that you think we should try to avoid. For example, for developers who are rushing to interrogate architectural mistake they make that leaves them open to open prompt injection or anything else.
So I think the best tip I can give to any developer building autonomous agents this sprint is that you need to add security as part of your building process, right? Not after. Security should never be an afterthought, right? You should not finish building and then start to put in security. Now, security is an important component of the whole software development lifecycle, right? Add security on it. If you're not sure, reach out to security professionals on what you need to build. For example, have your architectural diagram, give it to somebody that understands architecture, let them have a look at it from a security perspective. And trust me, they will have a lot to tell you, a lot of advice. They will have a lot of advice to give you on how to breach some minor security gap that you're not seeing as a developer. Because as humans, we look at things differently, right? That's why a developer cannot really do a security professional's job, even with the use of AI, right? You have to let the professionals do their job, but you can implement security right from the onset, right? That is one of the best things that you can do, right? And if you have a product already, let's say you've not considered that, carry out a penetration testing on it. Set up a test environment with everything your system is meant to do. Give it to a security professional to help you battle test it. Now, in the process of battle test it, trust me, they are going to find a lot of security issues. I mean, you might be like a super developer that you have all your tracks covered, but you want to be sure, right? So it's better to be sure, or it's better to be safe than sorry, right? So it's better a group of security engineers like test it and they are not able to find something, which is something you should be proud of, than you just believing yourself that I'm sure of the product I build and nobody is able to break it and stuff like that and go live. That would be like a very big mistake. So yeah, security auditing, making sure that security is part of your development lifecycle. You're building with security in mind is one of the great advice I can give anybody.
Awesome. So I'll take this moment and add Dyma as well to the stage. Hey Dyma, how are you?
Hello, hello. I was trying to get to my home to Abu Dhabi from Dubai, but I couldn't make it, so I'm in the middle of the road.
No worries, just drive safely, and we will let the people watching from home to also ask questions you as well. But Stephen, stay with us, and also we might have questions for you. So I'll try to moderate the questions I get from home. Um, so Dima, I wanted to ask you as well. You already told us a little bit about your journey and how you got into the space. But just like few soft questions, I would say, not technical questions. Um, that we would like to know about you. So let's start with what is your favorite thing about what you do today, or your favorite thing in the space at the moment?
All right. So I was at the round table with regulators today in Dubai with Vara, and I really like that our thoughts and our voice is listened. Yeah. So today I was pitching them the idea that like they recently released the derivatives rule book for the exchanges, and I was pitching them the idea that they need to go deeper into the controls of the exchanges because they are still black boxes, and they we still don't have answers for the October last year what happened, like with all these liquidations, and this is who made money, who lost money, and I really like that regulators are listening, and we have an open dialogue, and we are able to push what is really needed for the industry. Yeah, regulators need to protect users. Yeah, not to like overcomplicate things, but they need to go and make the manipulations and fraud more difficult from the big fishes, which continue to happen. So from this is from today, but
Amazing.
in
That's very
general, I
optimistic.
like to. I love what I do. Yeah, you know. Sorry, we have a time
Amazing.
like.
So next to that, like, what are you excited about in the space? I think obviously regulation being better is something that we're all excited about. Um, but yeah, what are you most excited about?
Yeah, I think like when we first started in 2017, there was an idea that the fundraising for small team projects is gonna be solved with the ICOs. That the banking issue, the accessibility will be solved. The privacy will be solved. All the things were kind of like a dream, but we ended up nothing to happen. But I really like to dream. You know, I keep dreaming. And the next thing that is still have potential and is still not spoiled is RWA. So I think with all the lessons learned, with all the frauds and scams we've been through, I think it's possible to set up the proper infrastructure when we will have the proper risk layers on all the RWA opportunities that we're gonna see very soon. Yeah, I really believe in the off-chain yields being available on-chain, I really believe that this is a new way of funding exciting ideas and scaling successful projects globally. Way better than the stock market, which is, I believe, uh, leads us to the situation when the big capital is becoming bigger, and the difference between the 1% of the wealthiest and the rest. Yeah, so I still believe in the industry. I believe in RWA. I believe in that we'll be able to build the proper risk layers, and I'm all for it to put my efforts, my knowledge, and the team knowledge into this job.
Awesome. I have another question that also Stephen might be able to answer, but I'll ask both of you. So balancing speed and security, building consistently pressured to ship fast while VCs and communities demand like good security. What are the most common architectural compromises that you see founders making to save time that end up costing them later much more? I'll put it on the screen as well to make it easier. Just a sec.
But there is the triangle from Vitalik, the cost, decentralization, and security. And based on this theory, you can have two things good, and one you need to compromise. Well, not to compromise, but you know. So if you have, um, if you compromise security, then you have good costs and like basically good decentralization. But it's the other way around. So it depends from the product what they want.
So I'll put it on the screen. Okay. Yeah. Stephen, do you want to answer that as well?
Okay. So from my end, how to balance them? I think I actually touched on it initially when I spoke about integrating security right from the onset, right? If you know you want to build fast, you
I
want
will
to
try
ship
to
fast,
rejoin.
right? Implement security, like hard security as part of the process. Embed security early in the development stage instead of relying on it in the later stage, right? Carry out threat modeling, do all your due diligence, right? That is one way to ship fast and not trade off security, right? So that's like one of the advice I can give, because you security and speed should actually go hand in hand. You can't trade one for another. If you do, especially security, if you do, at the end of the day, you know what happened. So that's not one thing I would advise anybody to do. It's better to be safe than sorry. So add security as part of your development strategy, or as you're building, be thinking security, reach out to security professionals to have a look at what you're actually building, right? And again, another thing is not everything actually need like the same level of security, right? The same way when I spoke about the human in the loop, we have to tie everything. You can do the same thing here as well, right? The critical part, right, that has to do with sensitive transaction and all that, make sure that a security person is actually taking a look at it. Then for the low risk features like the UI, the non-sensitive data, nobody really cares about those, right? As long as it's not critical, right? So that's one. And another thing is you need to design your system in such a way that you have it in mind that it's going to fail, right? Assume that somebody is going to break your system, then implement security safeguard that is going to help you not for them to not break it, right? So if you have that in mind, building fast is something you can go for, and there are a lot of standards and regulation that you can actually follow that is going to help you build better and build faster. So those are the tips I can actually give when it comes to that question there.
Awesome. I have another question. It can also go for both of you. But if someone from the audience here, builders, developers, would like to go into the security space in Web3, what would you recommend them to start with? Like, what are the best places to start learning about that, or even practicing or finding a job, right? Whatever you think.
From my end, I will tell you, secure Web3 is broad, like right now, with also the integration of AI into things, right? Because Web3 is very broad. So it depends what tickle your fancy as a person, right? Some people are smart contracts auditors, some people are looking at the Web 2.5. That's the traditional security build that is built on top of that is building on top of Web3, or that Web3 is building on top of rather, right? So it actually depends on what you like, right? But as an offensive security engineer, I would say try to jump in from a security perspective. Right? I mean, there's also regulations that you can jump in. There are a lot of regulation that you can be like a compliance auditor, the CCSSC. There's also like the traditional compliance standard that most Web3 organizations have to comply to, like ISO 27001. And if you're building autonomous system, there is ISO 42001 as well that you have to comply to. So there's also compliance. So you have like different niches when it comes to Web3. So do your research first, right? Yeah, do your research, look at the one that you're really interested to learning on. Then there are a lot of resources online that you could use to like level up yeah, and stuff. So that's just the only advice I have, right? There are a lot of things you can do in Web3. Just pick the one that you're really interested in.
Awesome. If you have a place to recommend that people go to, something open source is best.
Yeah, for smart contracts, there are people like Patrick that you can check out their video on YouTube. There is the smart contract developer guy, really good guy. We also have a platform on YouTube. You can check out our videos there. There are a lot of Discord channels, like the Hacking Discord channel, right? You can jump on. We have a lot of professional on that channel that is going to help you level up, right? And a lot of people, we are friendly people. We respond to people's DM, right? We are not like funny celebrity or not. We actually respond to you, right? So yeah. So just join those channel, search those channel online. You see like 1001 of them. And if you're interested in the Web2 part, there are a lot of resources online, right, that could help you. A simple Google search is just going to help you, or you reach out to us after the channel, and I might have one or two tips to give you, and you can go from there.
Awesome. Dyma, I also
I
have
can
one
add,
question for you.
if you allow.
Can you repeat that?
Yeah. I would like to. I would like to tell about Hacken Proof. Yeah, it's our bug bounty platform, which has a lot of learning materials, both on Web 2 and Web 3. Yeah, it also has a lot of active programs. I've interviewed famous bug hunters that made millions of dollars finding bugs. Yes, so you can check them out. Yes, so hackenproof.com. It's a lot of things to learn there.
Awesome. I have another question for you, Dyma. But like in the next few years, what kind of founders or startups in the space you would like to see more of, or you're anticipating that we're going to see much more of?
Humble. I hope we're gonna see humble founders who doesn't tell that their AI agent can hack everything and they are the best of the best. You know, like this is so annoying. But generally, yeah, I'm also experimenting with the orchestration agent orchestration platforms that allow you to be a solo founder. I think it's fascinating. But I I do believe that having a smaller team is exciting, but the solo team mentally not sustainable. Yeah. So yeah. that's my take.
Awesome. Stephen, if you want to add on that as well, I'd love to hear your opinion.
I totally lost the question.
I'll
What's the
repeat that.
question?
Like, basically, what do you anticipate in seeing more as startups in this field in the near future? What kind of founders, what kind of startups are going to emerge in the next few years, in your opinion?
Well, I think a lot of people are building agentic systems, right? I know some organizations that are actually rebuilding their whole infrastructure based on AI, right? So I think that's one thing a lot of people are going to be building this sprint. A lot of agentic system, autonomous agent system, AI agent, and stuff like that. So yeah, and most of them have really good use cases, right? But yeah, as usual, they just need to like think about security and they are properly battle test it, and that's it. Yeah,
Amazing.
yeah.
Okay, guys, do you have any last advice for our community? Things that you think that some wisdom that you want to share with our audience? We'll really appreciate it.
I'll let Diva go first. Okay, I think his network is lagging. Okay, from my end, I
No,
think.
it's
Oh, okay, okay, okay. Yeah.
Go, Dima.
sorry. It's we I'm like yeah. So my advice is um, keep experimenting with new stuff that has been out. It's like I will never be up to date because there's so many things becoming outdated so quickly. So I will just wait until something good will be released and then I will do something. No, this is a very wrong approach. Like being curious is really one of the key soft skill that will differentiate you among others. Yeah, like because the yeah, if we say that intelligence is solved, yeah, in future, like when that's where we're going into, then the soft skills are the main things that will can create your success. Yeah, it's curiosity, critical thinking, or at least to have a guy with critical thinking and security mindset. Adaptability, of course, yeah, because you build some stuff. Opa, there is some better models that and you're outdated and you should be able to adapt to this change and change your product very rapidly. Yeah, so it will happen a lot, and this can lead again to the another very important characteristic. This is this is what we learned from hacking. That's whenever how hard it was. Yeah, we were believing in each other and never gave up, and we will go through more difficult. That's my advice.
Amazing advice, man. Thank you so much. Steven, you're next.
Well, I think Dima has covered everything, almost everything, right?
Yeah, to be honest.
Yeah, to be honest, adaptability, curiosity, and all that. But I think my advice just goes to the Web3 builder. Um, Always have it at the back of your mind that security should be part of the process and not an afterthought, right? If you would want to build anything at all, the security of whatever you're building should be the discussion you have first, or should be part of the discussion before you even start building. And that's all the advice I have.
Amazing. So
So,
I want to thank both of you. It was fascinating, at least for me, and I hope for the audience as well. Um, and just for the rest of the audience, I would like to say thank you for joining us today. Really appreciate you taking a part of our
Thank you.
journey and helping us grow. And Dima and Steven, I want to thank both of you. It's been fascinating, and thank you for sharing all this knowledge and amazing advice. You'll both get the recording, no worries. Everything we do, as I said, is open source, so we're not gatekeeping anything. You're gonna get all the recordings and all the information, and also we will ask you to share any links that you want to share in our group as well later. and maybe some of the members of the community would like to follow up with more questions, or maybe get your help with anything. So feel free to share that. We would love to have you as a part of it. And yeah, that's it. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Have a great one. Cheers.
Thank you, guys.
Bye-bye.
And to everyone joining us today, if you liked our content and you would like to support us, please, I encourage you to join our Telegram and share this with your friends and colleagues who are interested in technical entrepreneurship and Web3 technologies. We're here to help you guys with learning from the best, connecting and hiring, and would love your support and feedback to continue getting better. If you want to take an active part in our community or speak with at one of our next events, please let us know and we'll reach out through the Telegram or our website or any of the channels that we're available in. And for those listening for us for the first time, we're the Web3 Devs Underground. We're all about top technical content, open source, no shilling, and all done by builders for builders. So everything we do is always free, reliable, and for the community. We encourage you to follow and subscribe to all our platforms and follow on our calendar for future events and updates. We're available on Luma and meetup.com, as I mentioned before, and we really appreciate your help. So see you at the next events, and for all the details are available on web3devs.org or on our Luma event calendar, and you can see us on May 13th, I think, is the next event. So see you then, and thank you all for joining us. See you next time.